This is my project today. This is my hot water heater in the basement. As you can see, I installed it on 6/19/2014. It's now October 30th, 2021. And in efforts to make this last as long as possible, I'm going to change the Sacrificial anode rod that is located under the hot water side inside the hot water heater. What that thing does, it's made out of magnesium, and any minerals in the water that may be attracted to that, instead of rusting out the inner lining of the hot water heater, what it does is it will eat away at the rod first. Problem is, as the years go by, once that rod is no longer in the tank anymore, the corrosion begins to start to go to the outside of the tank. Next thing you know, you'll start leaking on the bottom, and then it'll be time to buy a new one of these. Right now, these are probably $800 to $1,000, depending on what kind you get. So I'm going to try to make this last longer by swapping out the rod. I'm going to pull it out. I'll show you guys what it looks like, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Depending on the location of your hot water heater, this job could be very easy to slightly more complex. Of course, my situation has to be the more complex one. As you can see, I don't have much headroom where this hot water heater is located. The ceilings are pretty low in this basement. So I'm going to actually have to disconnect the gas line and both the hot and the cold water side, along with the gas vent, just to allow me to drain the tank down. I'm going to have to tip it forward a little bit and slide the new rod in. If you're lucky and your hot water heater has taller ceiling, you don't even need to mess with the gas line. All you have to do is just take off your hot water side, remove it, put in the new one, and you're done. So this is a little bit more advanced, I guess, but it's still not hard. It's just a little bit extra work. First thing I need to do, I want to make sure that I come down to the gas valve, and I want to shut this thing off. So we're going to turn it to the off position. And then I need to come up top, follow your gas line up, and you're going to find some sort of valve. That's the gas shutoff valve. So in addition to shutting it off at the bottom, we want to shut it off up top here. Get that guy off. Next, follow your water lines back to where they come from, and you're going to find some sort of shutoff valve. In this case, I have two on either side of the water meter, so you want to shut those off. And then we're going to get ready to drain the tank. So the tools that we need, hopefully this is all I'm going to need. We have a little piece of hose. We have some channel locks, big adjustable wrench, a couple smaller pipe wrenches, some pipe dope, and then this stuff is like soapy gas leak detector, because I'm going to have to disconnect the gas line. And then this rod, this is what the magnesium rod looks like. Just a rod there, a little plastic coupler here, and it threads right into the tank. I'm going to take hose, I'm going to hook it up onto the tank down here. And luckily for me, I have a sump pump right next to it. I'll take the hose, stick it in there. And then on this one, take a flat blade screwdriver, open your valve up, and the water will start to flow. To give it air behind the water so it will empty quicker, what you can do is open this relief valve, and that's going to let air into the tank through here. While the tank's draining, I'm going to start taking the gas line off. For this, I should only need to just break this one union, and then that should give me enough room to separate. So my next steps are going to be break the union on the gas line, then I'm going to break the hot water side union, and break the cold water side union, and I'll take this off. So I'm going to put you in the stand. You can see how that's done. whenever you're installing a hot water heater, spend the extra couple bucks and either they now have flexible hoses, which that makes it even easier, but always have some way to disconnect your pipes with a union. And I always put a shutoff on both sides, just so I can shut the whole water tank off if I need to. Okay, the hot water heater is still draining down. I have my gas line disconnected here. I have my stovepipe disconnected there. These are both free. So now I'm going to work on removing the sacrificial anode rod located under the hot water side. Okay, so this is the rod. It's actually surprisingly, after, what was it, 6, 7 years, it's not nearly as bad as I was expecting. When these guys go real bad, the only thing you're going to see left is this center rod here. This has definitely got a lot of corrosion on it, and since I have it apart, for sure I'm going to change it, but that's good to know. So 7 years, it's only this bad. I do have city water here. I imagine if you had well water, these suckers would go bad faster. New rod's only $30, so definitely going to pop the new one in, and then we'll get her back together. So the new one already has pipe dope on the tank threads, so we're just going to start that in there by hand. And then we'll snug it up with the wrench. The old anode rod had this little piece in the end. Not quite sure what it does, but I'm going to clean it up, put it in the new one just because they must be in there for a reason. Okay, got it all cleaned up. We're going to insert it back in to the new anode rod and start reassembly. I drew a line on the floor and I didn't have to move it too much. We're in good shape. I'm going to stop draining the water, if there's any left, and I'm going to start reassembly. I'm going to put a little bit of pipe dope on the threads to seal it up nice and tight, no leaks. Some people use Teflon tape, some people use pipe dope, some people use both. They probably all work. I'm not going to start that debate on what's better, but we're using dope today. And we're going to start this guy back on. Okay, got that nice and snug. Next thing we're going to do is replace these unions. Snug up those. Gas union. On and the gas back on, everything's tight. I'm going to open the valve slowly. I'm going to go back over here to the mains. Turn the mains back on slowly. And you're going to hear the water start to flow into the tank. What I'm going to do right now, so I know that the tank is filling up and pushing the air out, I'm going to open up the pressure relief valve and let the air out of the tank. So right now I'm checking for leaks. The tank's about full. Looks like the union on the hot water side, I'm getting a tiny little drip out of it. With these guys, it's better to leave them a little loose until you get the water back on and then snug it down until the leak stops rather than to over tighten it. So right now what we're going to do is we're just going to give it a little bit more of a snug and see if we can get that drip to stop. I could just hear the air stop. We're going to give it a little more snug. Okay, so nothing is leaking now. Everything's snugged up. We're going to check my gas union, the gas part that I separated. We're going to check that for a gas leak using this, basically it's thick soapy water. I'm going to put a little bit around the threads on that. Make sure no bubbles. Keep an eye on that. I don't see any bubbles, so I think we're all right. It'll be off from when we turned it off before. It says press and hold knob in the pilot light, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to press the igniter, which is this clicky thing down here, until it ignites. So I'm going to push it in. I can actually hear a little bit of gas wisping. And we're going to keep pushing this thing. It usually takes a minute or so because there's air in the gas line, so we got to bleed that out. Okay, I heard a click, and the status light is now blinking. So that should indicate that the pilot is now lit. So I'm going to move it over to my hot position. I can hear the fire is now on inside the tank. And if you come up top, you're going to feel for this pipe. It's going to start to get hot. You know you're lit. Shouldn't smell much gas or anything. Double check all your fittings. No bubbles. There's good. Nothing's bubbling here. Everything is nice and dry around the union and the top of the tank. And that pretty much wraps up this job. The last thing you want to do, you know, in an hour or so, come back down, take a look at it, and just double check, make sure nothing's leaking. Oh, and don't forget to label right on the tank when you did this, because my memory's not that good, so if I don't write it down, I won't remember. So I'm going to put anode change. And today is 10/30/2021. So we shall see. Maybe in another 7 to 10 years, I'll do it again and we'll get even more life out of this hot water heater. I just want to take a minute and go over what tools I use to do this. Many of my friends are always shocked when I'm able to do these simple home repairs myself without having to call a plumber. And really, none of this stuff is all that difficult There's plenty of good resources online. There's videos like this. There's books you can read. A little bit of tool knowledge goes a long way. As you can see, these are all very common hand tools that you'd find in most any household's toolbox. The only thing you might not have would be the pipe dope and the soap solution to check for leaks. But really, it's not a bad job. It can make your hot water heater last years longer than they normally would. So I definitely would recommend doing it and giving it a try.